All right, here we are with some multimeter troubleshooting tips. Troubling tips indeed. So first off, make sure the switch is turned all the way on. The switch may be a little wiggly, so you may have to wiggle it to make it work. Also, make sure that your dial is pointing the right way. I colored in with Sharpie the little dot right here, but doesn't start that way. So you can start by coloring in this little dot, make sure you can find it. Another way you can look is see how the dial is tapered on one end. It's a little hard to show on the screen, but it's tapered on one end, and that's the end that points towards where you need to be. So a lot of times it looks like it's not working right, just measuring zeros, because it's actually pointing up here, and in reality it needs to point down here. So that might be a problem. So what this should look like when you're looking at the multimeter and it's pointing toward the 20K range is you have it off scale or zero because you're measuring infinite resistance when they're not connected, and then you touch them together, it should measure something zero-ish. It'll be a little loose. You can also hold them together to make sure it actually measures just right. Now if it's not measuring that, depends on what it's showing you. If the screen is blank, then you can try some of the other settings. And if it stays blank, then you may want to try replacing the battery. You can unscrew here and take the back lid off and then replace the 9-volt battery that's inside. Maybe it came loose or maybe it died for some reason. If it's showing you zeros when you're pointing towards voltage, say, and showing you this infinite thing when you're pointing towards resistance, and it doesn't change when you touch, then maybe your leads are broken. So a good way to test that is you can unplug one at a time and take the other side of the lead and kind of stuff it in here. And then you should read roughly zero resistance. And then you can do it, of course, the other way with try the red lead, make sure that's working, and put that in there. You may have to move this around, so of course it doesn't fit quite right. But if you kind of pull on it a little bit to the side, it should read zero because there's really low resistance for the wires in this lead. Another thing you can do to check if the leads are broken is to just take your photoresistor and just put it across in here. This will be a little touchy because it's not, of course, designed to do that. So you'll have to push on it to get it to show something. And it should show some value. Again, you can try different scales if it's not quite showing the right value. And of course wiggle it to get it to try to connect to both sides. That's off scale, that's right, that's right. See, this is measuring 13, and then as I change different scales, it shows it to me differently. And then here, 13 is off scale because it only goes up to 2. Okay, and so if you have some sort of resistance measurement without the leads, and then you plug the leads in and it doesn't work, then very well your leads might be broken. Right, if you touch these together and you get nothing. In which case you can ask for new leads or perhaps go buy some at a hardware store. If the whole meter is broken, so you don't get zeros, you don't get the kind of infinite thing here, then of course double check to make sure the power is on right, replace the battery, and if not, you can go measure, or you can go buy a new one at the hardware store, or ask to get a new one. Or you might have one lying around your house. And then the last trick you can try is to just measure the battery. The battery should be 3 volts, so you can kind of carefully touch one end here, and then the other end here, and you should read about 3 volts. It may be negative, and if that happens, that's okay, because you're just trying to see if it works. And in order to do this, you set it to the DC volts 20 range, and then that should measure that. So there's some troubleshooting tips. Good luck.